Imagine waking up to a notification on your phone that changes your entire perception of reality. You open your brokerage account, or maybe your Stripe dashboard, or your crypto wallet, and there it is, $10,000. Not total, but profit. And the kicker? You barely did anything. You didn't spend years in a library or decades climbing a corporate ladder. You took a chance. You pressed a few buttons, and the universe handed you a bag of cash. Most people would call this a dream come true. They'd call it a sign that you're destined for greatness. But in reality, that $10,000 is the most dangerous thing that could ever happen to you. It is the bait in a psychological trap that has ruined more lives than outright failure ever could. We call it the first-time luck trap, and once it snaps shut, it can take years or even your entire life savings to escape. To understand why winning is sometimes the worst way to start, we have to look at what's happening inside your brain the moment that money hits your account. When you work a job for a month and receive a paycheck, your brain understands the transaction. Time plus effort equals reward. But when you hit a massive win early on with minimal effort, your brain's reward system goes into a state of total anarchy. You get a massive surge of dopamine, the molecule of more, which tells your brain that you have discovered a shortcut to survival. The problem is that your brain is a pattern recognition machine. It desperately wants to find the code for success so it can repeat it. When you win big on your first try, your brain mistakenly identifies luck as a skill. You begin to believe that you have a special intuition, a secret sauce, or a golden touch that others lack. This is where the trap is set. Think about a guy we'll call Alex. Alex has never traded a stock in his life. He hears about a meme coin or a tech stock from a friend, throws in $1,000 of his savings, and 2 weeks later he's up $10,000. Alex doesn't think, wow, I got incredibly lucky and the market happened to be in a freak bull run. No, Alex thinks, I am a genius. Why was I wasting my time working for $20 an hour when I can make $10,000 in 2 weeks? He begins to look at his boss, his friends, and his education with a sense of condescension. He feels like he's solved the game of life. But here's the terrifying part about first-time luck. It robs you of the most important phase of any journey, the struggle. Failure is a teacher. It forces you to build systems, to manage risk, and to develop the emotional calluses needed to handle the volatility of any high-stakes venture. When you fail early, you learn the cost of entry. When you win early, you think the entry is free. Now, Alex is in a position where his ego is tied to a fluke. He starts looking for the next big win, but because he doesn't actually understand the underlying mechanics of what he did, he can't replicate it through logic. Instead, he replicates it through aggression. He takes that $10,000 and looks for the next play. But this time, $10,000 isn't enough. He wants 50. He wants 100. He's no longer looking for a sustainable path. He's chasing the high of that first win. This is exactly how the house wins in every scenario, whether it's the stock market, the casino, or the startup world. They don't need you to lose your first bet. In fact, they'd prefer if you won. If you lose your first $100 at a blackjack table, you'll walk away and never come back. You'll say, gambling is a scam. But if you turn 100 into 5,000 on your first night, you are hooked for life. You will spend the next 10 years and $50,000 trying to get back to that feeling of being a winner. You aren't playing against the market or the dealer anymore. You're playing against your own memory. This phenomenon is closely related to the Dunning-Kruger effect, but with a financial stake. In the beginning, your confidence is at an all-time high because your knowledge is at an all-time low. You don't know enough to know how much danger you are actually in. You're standing in a minefield thinking you're on a dance floor because you haven't stepped on anything yet. The first-time luck trap creates a survivorship bias within your own biography. You look at your success as proof of your method, even if your method was just closing your eyes and throwing a dart. As the weeks go by, the market inevitably shifts. The conditions that allowed your lucky break to happen vanish, but your brain is still operating on the old software. You double down. You tell yourself it's just a temporary dip. You start using leverage. You start borrowing money from your future self because you are so certain that the genius version of you will show up again. But that version of you was a phantom. It was a ghost created by a random fluctuation in the universe. This is the moment where the trap snaps. The losses start to mount, and because you never learned how to lose small, you only know how to lose big. You never built the discipline of stop losses or diversification, because those are things that boring people do. You're a winner, right? Winners go all in. Before you know it, the original $10,000 is gone, but it's worse than that. You're now down another $20,000 of money you actually had to work for. The irony is that if you had just failed on day one, you'd be $20,000 richer right now. You'd have your dignity, and you'd have a realistic understanding of how the world works. Instead, you're chasing a ghost. You're trapped in a cycle of trying to prove that your first win wasn't a fluke. This is why professional athletes who sign massive contracts at 20 years old often go broke, while those who grind through the minor leagues for a decade tend to keep their wealth. The grinder learned the value of every dollar. They saw the mechanics of the game. They saw people fail. They realized that success is a mountain you climb, not an elevator you ride. If you find yourself in the middle of a big win right now, especially if it's your first time out, I want you to do something very difficult. I want you to assume you are wrong. I want you to assume you are not a genius, but a beneficiary of randomness. This is called intellectual humility, and it is the only antidote to the trap. If you made $10,000, take $5,000 of it, put it in a boring index fund, and pretend it doesn't exist. Take the other $5,000 and treat it like a tuition fee. Use it to actually learn the craft. Read the books, study the data, and talk to people who have been doing this for 20 years, not 20 days. The goal isn't to be a person who made $10,000 once. The goal is to be the kind of person who is capable of making $10,000 whenever they want. There is a massive difference between having money and the ability to generate wealth. One is a state of being, the other is the state of your bank account. The first-time luck trap convinces you that you have the ability when you only have the state. If you can't explain exactly why you succeeded in a way that someone else could follow to get the same result, then you didn't succeed. You just happened to be standing where the lightning struck. And lightning rarely strikes the same place twice, no matter how hard you pray or how much money you throw at the sky. We live in an era of instant success stories. We see the 18-year-old crypto millionaires and the overnight TikTok stars. We see the highlights, but we never see the thousands of people who fell into the trap and disappeared. For every overnight success, there are 10,000 people who are currently in financial or emotional ruin because they mistook a lucky break for a career path. They are still sitting at the same virtual poker table, waiting for the cards to turn in their favor again, not realizing that the game has changed and they never learned the rules. So, how do you break free? If you've already won, stop, breathe, realize that the greatest risk you face is your own ego. Detach your self-worth from the outcome and attach it to your process. If your process is, "I guessed," then acknowledge that. There is no shame in being lucky, but there is immense danger in being deluded. Build a system that works even when luck isn't on your side. Focus on the boring stuff, risk management, consistency, and long-term thinking. True wealth and true success are built on a foundation of many small, intentional wins, not one giant accident. The $10,000 can be a blessing or a curse. It's a blessing if you use it to buy time to learn. It's a curse if you use it as proof that you have nothing left to learn. Don't let your first win be your last. Don't let the dopamine high blind you to the reality of the climb. Success is a marathon, and the people who sprint the first 100 yards often find themselves out of breath before the first mile is over. If you found this perspective helpful, or if you've ever felt the sting of a lucky win turning into a painful lesson, let us know. It's a journey we're all on together, and the more we can recognize these psychological traps, the better our chances of actually reaching the finish line. Stay humble, stay curious, and most importantly, stay focused on the process. The results will take care of themselves.